Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Yes, today is the day where I reveal one of the big things, the thing that is very interesting and that the left needs to do in order to actually get some relevancy again. But before we get into that, we're going to have to get right into the news. The first news is coming all the way from Italy. Pope Francis says free market trickle-down policies fail society. Pope Francis said that on Saturday that the COVID-19 pandemic was the latest crisis to prove that free market forces alone and trickle-down economic policies have failed to produce the social benefits their proponents claim. In an encyclical on the theme of human fraternity, Francis also said private property cannot be considered an absolute right in all cases where some lived extravagantly while others had nothing. Called Fratelli Tutti, Brothers All, the encyclical's title prompted criticism for it using inclusive language after it was announced last month. In Italian, fratelli means brothers, but it can also be used to mean brothers and sisters. Basically, that just got like weird moment where people are like, why is it not inclusive? Weird. I don't get it. You should really be focused on the issue of what Pope Francis says. And Pope Francis, one of the things he says right here, he says, private property cannot be considered an absolute right in all cases where some live extravagantly while others have nothing. Bitch, you live in the Vatican. You live in the Vatican. Have you seen St. Peter's Church? Look at all the friggin' gold in there. Look, I get it. Pope Francis is trying to be the cool pope. The one that's let's not molest children. But, the thing about him being the cool pope is at the end of the day, he's still, a pope. At the end of the day, it's still his interest to, promote Catholicism in a way. That's his thing. He has to do, we have to fight for this. I mean, granted, he would probably be top tier popes in my book, I guess. I don't know anything else about the other popes. All I know is that one of them stood idly by while his preachers molested children. The cool pope always has to have limits. He's still, at the end of the day, a pope that, at the end of the day, will choose Catholicism over all else. I mean, I'm not saying you can't be a Catholic and also care about people. I mean, there's a reason why Christian democracy and Christian socialism and stuff exist. Because some people actually try to be here's what the Bible actually says, and I'm actually going to try and abide by it. But I mean, you also got to acknowledge it's not the majority of people, though. You just got to be honest about it. Okay, anyways, let's just move on to the next story, because Sunflower Socialist is already in the comments being like, no! Wait, it's actually on the same subject. Justice Thomas and Alito lashed out at the decision that cleared the way for same-sex marriage. Justice Clarence Thomas, joined by Justice Samuel Alito, lashed out on Monday at the religious liberty implications of the Supreme Court's 2015 decision that cleared the way for same-sex marriage nationwide. Thomas wrote that the decision, Obergefell v. Hodges, enables courts and governments to brand religious adherents who believe that marriages between one man and one woman as bigots, making their religious liberty concerns that much easier to dismiss. Thomas's strong opinion came down on the first day of the Supreme Court's new term and reflects the fact that critics on the landmark opinion of 5 years ago was penned by now retired Justice Anthony Kennedy are still infuriated by its reasoning. They believe the court should have left the decision to the political arena and have long said that it will infringe upon the rights of those who have religious objections to same-sex marriage. You want to know what I say? I don't care. I don't care. Here's the thing about religious freedom. I really don't care about the fact that you are offended by gay people getting married. I don't. I really don't. This reason could be literally just said all the time. Oh, I don't hate black and whites getting married and having kids, but my religion says miscegenation is not good. I'm just saying. It's the same thing. And especially considering this stupid notion of like religious freedom, blah blah blah. You think like people really they try to believe like they're trying to push this whole stupid like narrative like kind of like, oh, we're oppressing Christianity because we say that gay people can get married. Do you want to know what fucking real Christian oppression was? When Catholics were literally hung on the gallows in the Cristero War in Mexico. You want to know what real oppression is? Not being able to get married to whoever you want because you just can't. And I really like this moment where like Thomas writes down like, it enables courts to brand religious adherents who believe that marriage between one man and one woman as bigots. Well, yeah, because they are. End of story. I don't care about like, oh, I have a reason for doing this. It's still bad. Like, for example, again, let me give you another example. Let me give you one. Maybe you're one of those far-right Christians who believes that the Jews killed Jesus. So just like, I have a religious reason to think that all the Jews need to be put in gas chambers. Come on. What's the problem? Religious freedom, bro. No, that's not how religious freedom works. Religious freedom means you get to go to a place and then talk to your magic fairy man. It does not mean you get to use that as a crutch to oppress people. It doesn't. It doesn't. That's just literally not even what the country was made to do. The founding fathers, they were not fans of organized religion. They weren't. Half of them were like deists. And the other half were like secular-ish Christians. You know, like type the people that like, they go to church. And that's it, pretty much. And then maybe like do a prayer once. But it really doesn't matter. And it shows like, again, they don't, like losing is not a thing for conservatives. They still have must go backwards. Back to where things used to be. They're not even conservatives. They're not conservatives. They're regressives. The end. The end of the day. They're regressives. Okay, now let's move on to a more positive story. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler trails challenger Sarah Inarone by 11 points according to DMH poll. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler trails his challenger Sarah Inarone by 11 points according to a poll of likely voters conducted by DHM Research on behalf of the Portland Business Alliance. Wheeler polled at 30% to Inarone's 41%, with the remaining 29% of surveyed voters split between writing in a candidate or remaining undecided. It's especially notable given that the poll was not conducted by either campaign. Though PBA is supporting the mayor, the poll has a 4% margin of error. The results are somewhat surprising, given that Inarone finished more than 20 points behind the mayor in the primary, in which Wheeler nearly received the 50% plus one of voters required to avert a runoff. At the same time, Wheeler has faced intense criticism throughout the summer over his handling of the protests and policing, and another recent poll conducted on behalf of City Hall accountability measure had Wheeler at 26% favorability. Now, here's the notable thing. Sarah is a member of Antifa. She is. She's an Antifa member. And this is very interesting. You see, many people are trying to, like, put onto the whole narrative of, like, oh, we have this huge thing where the Democrats are in bed with Antifa and blah, blah, blah. And they're going on, they're chugging along, and all these protests and stuff happen in Democrat-run cities and blah, blah, blah. But this will be interesting. We might actually have an Antifa member as a mayor come next year. That would be interesting. Maybe it'll add legitimacy to Antifa in a way that many people don't understand. And now here's the thing. Sarah is like in her 40s, so she's obviously not one of those younger member of Antifas that are like more LARPy types. Come on, don't deny there are LARPy members of Antifa, much like there are LARPy every kind of guys where they're like, I'm the main character, I have to stop the fascists with my baseball bat and blah blah blah. sometimes they get ridiculous. Then again, we all know we all get ridiculous at one point or another. I'm personally not endorsing her because I closed my endorsements thing, but she would be interesting. I'd have to look at a more in-depth look at her platform, which I didn't do, which I should have done, but I didn't. But it could be interesting to see this happen. Okay, now here's the biggest story that was very interesting. 13 charged in plots against Michigan governor. Agents foiled a stunning plot to kidnap Michigan Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, authorities said Thursday, in announcing charges in an alleged scheme that involved months of planning and even rehearsals to snatch her from her vacation home. 6 men were charged in federal court with conspiring to kidnap the governor before the November 3rd elections in reaction to what they viewed as her uncontrolled power, according to a federal complaint. Separately, 7 others linked to the paramilitary group, called the Wolverine Watchmen, were charged in state court for allegedly seeking to storm the Michigan Capitol and seek a civil war. 2 groups trained together and planned various acts of violence, according to the state police. Surveillance of the kidnapping plot took place in August and September, according to the FBI Confidant. The 4 of the men had planned to meet Wednesday to make a payment on explosives and exchange technical gear. The FBI quoted one of the men as saying Whitmer has no checks and balances at all, she is uncontrolled power right now, and all good things must come to an end. This is not at all good. Yeah, this is definitely probably a I'm not gonna be too big, but I guarantee you we're probably not gonna be seeing this isn't probably gonna be the last time we see something like this happen. I mean, remember at the last presidential debate, the one that actually happened, not the one that's getting canceled, but he literally said to all these organizations, stand back and stand by. So we're definitely not going to be seeing the end of this. Although to be fair, I don't even what is Gretchen Wood? Wait, if I remember correctly, they were Michigan. They had this whole thing where they rallied outside because of her COVID restrictions. I don't get why is COVID the thing? Why is literally people protecting their citizens the thing that makes people mad? North Carolinians are literally I can't go get my alcohol. I can't drink myself to death. Roy, why you do this to me? I really don't get why is this the thing that makes them pull their guns out and go, we need to take back our country. I don't get it. Why this? The surveillance state that the government did, that's fine. Literally ruining our welfare state, hurting the poorest people in the nation, that's fine. Oppressing people and killing them indiscriminately, that's fine. But I have to wear a mask? Too far, man. That's literally exactly, I believe that is literally a Thomas Jefferson quote. Look, give me liberty and don't give me a mask or I'll fucking kill you. This is stupid. These people, I don't get it. Why is this the thing that they choose to defend? I mean, you know how these right-wing guys go? These right-wing guys, a couple of years ago, they were literally defending a cult that was killing people. If I remember correctly, one of them, a literal cult, they were literally defending them. Look, granted, that technically did have some sort of reason for them to get angry because the government stormed in and killed a bunch of kids, but like I say, they draw weird lines at what they protect. I don't get it. Well, I mean, I do get it. Liberals bad, Democrats evil, stinky, yucky, literal fascism okay. Okay, so anyways, now let's move on to the next story, which is probably the most uplifting one. Progressives unveil 2021 agenda to pressure Biden. Black Lives Matter leaders, organized labor, progressive groups, and members of the House Democratic Squad are unveiling a 2021 agenda Thursday, laying down markers for how big a Joe Biden administration could go on coronavirus aid, economic relief, and more next year. Known as the Working Families Party's People Charter, the 1,000-word proposals, well, let's just flat out read what the People's Charter is. Because the People's Charter, it probably would be the shining light on the eventual, shit sandwich that literally will come from a Biden administration. The People's Charter is our roadmap out of the current state of crisis and to an America that works for the many and not the privileged and powerful few. Americans are coming together to care for each other like never before, but our government isn't caring for us. It doesn't even seem to care about us. 3 events have rocked our country: a global pandemic, an economic collapse, and a reckoning with the history of systematic racism against black people. According to the country, communities have been caring for one another throughout these crises. Grocery clerks and farm workers keeping food on our shelves, nurses saving lives while risking their own, neighbors delivering supplies to those most vulnerable, and sharing what they have with people who need it. And millions of people have taken to the streets in grief and anger and demands an end to police killings and racial injustice. Our politicians, again, rush to bail out corporations and billionaires, but they're playing games with the unemployment insurance, leading families up to skip meals, go without medication, or fall behind on rent or mortgage payments. They seem to care for billionaires a lot more than they care about working people. It doesn't have to be this way. We can heal the wounds from the pandemic, the economic depression, and a history of racism. And we can do more. Working people can come together to make a nation that cares for all of us. 1. Care for the wronged. Repair historic harms, and end systemic racism. Shift resources from policing, jails, and detention centers, endless wars and agencies that separate families. Shift resources into schools, housing, healthcare, and jobs to enable all people, especially black and brown people, immigrants, and indigenous people to thrive. Eliminate restrictive local zoning rules that keep housing and schools segregated by race and class. Aid black families and other people of color harmed by redlining and buying homes. Respect the sovereignty of indigenous people and tribal nations. 2. Emergency care. Help everyone get and stay well, and support workers, families, and small businesses as long as it takes. Free COVID testing and treatment for all, including the vaccine once it's available. Extend expanded $600 per week unemployment insurance until there are jobs for people to return to. Make sure it's available to everyone, regardless of immigration status. No evictions, foreclosures, or utility shutoffs during the pandemic. Cancel rent and suspend debt payments until jobs return. Provide retroactive hazard pay for all essential workers. Care for parents, kids, and teachers by delaying school reopening until the virus subsides and schools have the resources to do so safely. Ensure every student learning from home has the devices, nutrition, and accommodation they need. Care for the most vulnerable during a crisis, especially the homeless, migrants, people with disabilities, trans people, and survivors of domestic and sexual violence by making sure everyone can access vital services that have a safe place to go. Direct federal funding to states and cities to prevent layoffs and cut to schools, hospitals, and other public services when we need them the most. Help get small businesses to preserve vibrant local communities and project jobs. 3. A good job for everyone who needs one. Working people can't wait years for jobs to come back. We need millions of jobs now. Put 16 million people to work immediately, upgrading our broken infrastructure, modernizing and retrofitting millions of homes and buildings, staffing schools, hospitals, health departments, protecting and restoring forests and wetlands, creating opportunities for families, workers, and rural communities, and revitalizing American manufacturing. Raise the minimum wage to $15 per hour everywhere. 4. Care for people. Address the deficiencies in how our government cares for us and the pandemic has revealed. Make healthcare free and universal and take hospital and health insurance profits out of it. Ensure every worker who wants a union can join one so that all workers, and especially essential workers, can bargain for good pay and benefits, safe conditions, and a good choice for everyone. Guarantee universal child care, paid family and medical leave, and paid sick days, and income support for parents taking care of kids full-time. Provide safe, affordable housing for all. Guarantee home and community-based services for everyone, including mental health care. Cancel student debt and unfair burden on working and middle-class young adults. Tax the giant corporations who don't pay their share. and the wealth of the billionaires who have gotten richer during the worst economic collapse in 90 years. 5. Care for our future. Act now to make all of us more resilient to challenges we know we have to confront. Invest now to make our food, water, electricity, health, and financial and other systems resilient to future crises like climate change. Create public banks to make needed investments whenever private markets fail to do so. Give public ownership stakes in all corporations receiving bailouts. Instead of subsidizing and bailing out oil and gas companies, buy them out to further a transition away from fossil fuels and towards regenerative energy sources to create green jobs in the process. Prioritize a just transition for workers in extractive industries. Prioritize investments in the poor and working class communities, especially communities of color, which have historically suffered from pollution. Ensure everyone has clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. Emphasize cooperation and diplomacy over competition in our dealings with other countries in order to confront challenges like that transcend borders like pandemics, armed conflicts, and climate change. Protect our democracy from the takeover from billionaires, corporations, war profiteers, and bigots by getting big money out of politics and ensuring that every vote counts. Save the UPS to ensure that we can vote by mail. It is a very good charter. I have to give my hats to the Working Families Party for putting this together because it's a good idea. Set this goal, set this big policy standard in order to do this. Like if you want to actually give the Biden administration actually good things, then you need to do this. The signatories are a very notable thing. Here are the people who have signed it. Ayanna Pressley, Ro Khanna, AOC, Chewy Garcia, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Nydia Velasquez, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Mondaire Jones, Nikema Williams, Julie Oliver, Mike Segal, and Beth Doglio. Those, of course, we all know some of them are actually currently members of the House of Representatives. Jamal, Bush, and Mondaire, and Nikema are guaranteed to be in the House next year. Julie Oliver, Mike Segal, and Beth Doglio are facing tough races, but have shown progressive chops to show they are pretty good. So yeah, I would say that is probably the only saving grace of a Biden administration. I don't like a Biden administration. I didn't vote for a Biden administration. But if he wins, at the very least, we have a bigger voice. The left has a much bigger voice. Which means we could probably push him further than we can. I don't have faith that it'll be enough. But I have faith that it will be probably a better change than we were able to get in during the Obama administration. We didn't even get a public option. We got nothing. Now there might actually be something worth getting. Don't know what. But, the whole notion of the radical left has taken over Joe Biden. Hopefully that's the case. I 100% hope that that's the case. Okay, anyways, now let's move on to the questions for my 400 subscriber Q&A. How many questions did I get? 3. Yeah, people don't give me questions because they don't like me. I don't know why. But anyways, now let's move on to the questions. First is from Alex Kawa. What's your favorite state? Simple, North Carolina. That's it. That's the only state I've been in. It's the only state I know. It's my favorite state. The end. South Carolina, they're pretty racist. But, they're kind of cool. They're the second best Carolina, I guess. I've been to Myrtle Beach during a police shootout, but that's all I gotta say on other states. I've only driven through certain states when I went to Mexico. Jeez. Well, my favorite Mexican state is gonna be Zacatecas. That's where the fam was from. Okay, the next question is from Mavion from my Discord. What made you interested in third parties? Simple. The 2016 election, they nominated Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It's not necessarily the most, like if you're not interested in third parties by then, you're pretty much going to be interested in third parties with those two options, considering you really don't have any good choices in that field unless you go the third party route. So I looked into the third party route, and not only did I find not only did I think Gary Johnson and Jill Stein were pretty cool, but then I looked into the historical aspect, because they were because I was starting to look at them and be like, wait a second, where did these guys come from? Why is the Green Party not that notable? Oh yeah, they were notable at one point during 2000 that Ralph Nader was a candidate, and they got a pretty sizable amount of support. But due to that, many people didn't really consider them a serious contender, because spoiler and blah blah blah, and then I just kept reading into it. It's pretty cool. Okay, the last question is from John168. He writes, rank these parties from best to worst. Republican, Democrat, Green, Libertarian, Constitution, Conservative, Vermont, Progressive Party, Independence Party, Reform Party, Working Families Party, Prohibition Party, Party of Socialism and Liberation, Peace and Freedom Party, and the Alliance Party. Okay, this is probably easy. I'm going to start at the bottom. We have the GOP. GOP, they stink policy-wise, and they have the ability to actually enact policies. Right above that, the Constitution Party. They are pretty much like the Republican Party, except they don't actually have a platform to actually propose the policies and enact them. So that makes them only slightly better. Then there's the Conservative Party of New York. They were pretty lame, but at this point they're pretty much irrelevant. Right above that is the Independence Party. Now, they're not necessarily, they're weird. They used to be the New York Reform Party affiliate. Then they kind of had this weird streak where they went solo, and then Lenore Fulani took them over and pretty much turned them into the weird thing where they're pretty much now completely irrelevant. All they do is endorse candidates and then win. They endorse whoever wins in races, and then they win the races. The end. They don't actually do anything anymore. Now, but that is the Prohibition Party. They have an interesting history. I'll give them that. They were at the forefront on certain issues. They liked women voting. That's pretty cool. But, Prohibition, it just failed. It just failed. Game over. You got what you wanted at the end. Now, up above them is the Alliance Party. The Alliance Party it stinks because it's just a front for De La Fuente. De La Fuente, he's got this huge thing. I was originally indifferent to De La Fuente. Now I freaking hate him. I hate him. I hate this man. He literally wants to be every worst aspect of a politician. Period. And the Alliance Party is just a message for him to do it. Right above them is the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is, they're interesting, but at the end of the day, they're just lame, pretty much. They like capitalism, and that's pretty lame, TBH. They're good on weed, they're good on, surveillance states, but it's a weird capitalism, really right-wing capitalism crap that's just, yawn. Right above them is the Reform Party. The Reform Party, again, similar to the Independence Party, they're irrelevant now, and now it's sort of now becoming a weird front for De La Fuente now, but I'll give them that they've had a decent platform-ish. Weird, they tried to stay off of, these social wedge issues and tried to focus on issues they actually seem to care about, the NAFTA thing where Ross Perot was proven 100% right. But at the end of the day, they're just not that cool. They're lame now. Right above them, we have the PSL. The PSL, they're tankies, so yeah, I'm gonna say pass. The candidate of the PSL, they literally say oh, we like They said, like, we like North Korea. That's what they said. This lame. Right above them is the Democratic Party. They're pretty lame, but they have, like, AOC, and they had, like, Kucinich. The Progressive Dems put them up a peg, but the moderate Dems put them down a peg. Right above them is the Peace and Freedom Party. The Peace and Freedom Party, I mean, they're similar to the PSL. In fact, they're kind of sort of the California affiliate of the PSL at this point. But they're not as tanky. They're focused on other issues, like race. And focused on, I guess that's it, race. And focused on those aspects and not the, tanky aspect, which the PSL seems to be focused on. I don't know why. Right above them is the Working Families Party. That People's Charter was pretty lit, TBH. And they really do seem cool. But I still don't. Why didn't they release the numbers? Why don't they just freaking release the numbers? I don't get it. Right above them is the Vermont Progressive Party. The only problem is that they're in this one. They're only in one state. Though to be fair, they have gotten enough records in that state to be one of their state's major parties. And that's interesting. I'll give them that. And they are kind of trying to move forward with trying to build a national progressive party. But it's still just one state, bro. And at number one, we got Green Party. They've been given left-wing voice for a while now. Jill Stein, Ralph Nader, and Peter Cameo, and Matt Gonzalez, and Kenneth Mejia. Pretty lit, TBH. Okay, anyways, now let's finally move on to the main topic of this video. My sort of Justice Democrats-ish thing. Not going to be forming an actual organization, because that's too much work. Instead, I'm just going to propose a plan. In a plan, you don't have to follow 101, but you can try and get in contact with me, and I can try and fix things out. But there is a problem. Progressives, the problem is, we never seem to make the name for ourselves when we need to. Like, for example, 2018, there were many seats that could have been progressive grabs, or at the very least, we could have tried for progressive grabs, but we didn't get enough of our shit together to get it done. Like, for example, Minnesota. I don't get it. Why did Keith not run for that seat? It was gift wrapped to him. And basically, I don't want to miss that kind of opportunity again. Which is why I'm proposing this hashtag, this thingy. It's going to be called hashtag Progressive Deluge. Progressive Deluge is it's sort of like, I call it Progressive Deluge because, progressive wave and progressive thing was already taken, and deluge is sort of like a flood thing. So, it's just a unique thing. Basically, I'm going to be, again, and this isn't even the full thing, because I'm only proposing the Senate races, because let's be honest, I'm not going to propose everybody in a House thing. That's going to have to be a bigger endeavor, if you want to get in on that. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But basically, I'm going to propose certain people run for every single Senate seat in the next election. Now, some of these seats, you'll find some interesting things. I'm going to try to make the case for some of these people to run. Now, here's the thing. Will they all run? I guarantee you not all of them will run, which is why for some of the seats, I put multiple names, just in case. And some of the seats were incredibly hard to find people, and I literally just had to find the best name that fit. I just had to find, a name that I think could fit. You honestly don't know how long I was thinking about Alaska on this list, and I literally thought Alabama was going to be a dead loss, but it turns out it didn't. Okay? Now let's move on to the list. First, we're going to start off in the state of Alabama. Now, you might think this is a lost cause. I thought so too. But no, there is one person who could be a progressive candidate in the seat. Christopher Countryman. He ran a progressive campaign in the state of Alabama for the governor's seat in 2018. Now, did he win? No. Did he even get in the top 3? No. But we have to accept the facts. Progressives are just not going to win in Alabama. But we can definitely try. And Chris Countryman's probably the best person to pick to do that. You'll soon find out that only some of these people actually have chances of winning. I tried to pick the ones that could legitimately try to win, but there's some that are legitimately just like, it's still a lost cause, pretty much. Okay, so the next seat is Alaska. Alaska, it was pretty easy to find it as soon as I was pointed in the right direction. I contemplated maybe doing a Mike Gravel-esque thing where we try to get Gravel to run again, but it's like, nah, that's stupid. But there's one person who could legitimately do it. Dimitri Sheehan. Dimitri Sheehan was a progressive candidate who ran as the JD endorsed person for the House seat in the 2018 midterms. He's the only guy for the job, pretty much. He really is the only guy for the job. There's pretty much not else I can say. So let's move on to the next seat. Arizona. Arizona. This one was slightly more difficult because I also have to take another part into consideration. I did get some suggestions, but some of the suggestions, not for the seat in particular, but like just suggestions in general. But you have to take one thing into account. Will they, because some people would suggest names of incumbent people. Like, at one point I did think, maybe why not Rahul Grijalva run for the seat? But then it hit me, I was thinking, would he primary a Democratic incumbent? No, he wouldn't. But I did think of some people who would, because, again, this seat is expected to flip to Mark Kelly. So I thought of some people who would primary a Democratic incumbent. First, there's Eva Putzola. She primaried a Democratic incumbent. Then there's Deidre Abad, who was the Justice Democrat who tried to run for the other Senate seat in 2018. But at the end of the day, neither of those two are the ones that I want to run for the Senate seat. I'm also gonna, that's the thing. There are some names we're going to suggest, but there's only one person I think should be the one we focus on. Brianna Westbrook. It has to be Brianna Westbrook. You know how much she's done for the progressive movement? Seriously. She is sort of the quintessential progressive kind of person we need to run in this kind of seat. Especially considering, many people try to have this narrative of progressives were sexist pigs and blah blah blah. I don't get it. Brianna Westbrook is right here. She is the quintessential, not stereotypical Bernie bro type person. She's perfect for the job. Next one is Arkansas. I'll be honest, Arkansas was also kind of even the suggestions that I've made are pretty much dead in the water. The two people I suggested were, this is the funny thing, neither of them are Democrats. This is the stupidest part. Neither of them are Democrats, so even if they did manage to get on the general election ballot, they probably wouldn't work. Well, technically one, okay, let me explain who they are. Dan Whitfield and Rob Riercy. Rob Riercy, not just Democrats, brand new Congress leader. The person, maybe they could do it if they run as Democrats. Maybe they'll have a chance. But, even if they do run as what they are now, Republican and Independent, who cares? These two are, really good progressives. And I think either of them would be good choices. Dan, you just need to actually get on the ballot. And Rob, try to win the primary. Okay, the next one, I couldn't find anybody. California, I'll be honest, California is just dead in the water. There's literally no person in California who I could even consider to be the person. I'm fucking kidding. Of course I am. You know how many lefties are in California? I could have picked anybody. I could have picked David Hildebrand. I could have picked Gail McLaughlin. I could have picked Matt Gonzalez, Shahid Buttar, Barbara Lee. But at the end of the day, screw all of them. I don't care. They're lying. There is only one man for the job. Ro Khanna. He is the only person who should be in the Senate. He put so much work into the Bernie movement. I will probably say this, he's probably the best incumbent in Congress we have so far, aside from, another person who will probably also be getting on this list pretty soon. I did throw in the slight idea of, maybe Barbara Lee, but let's be honest, it's gotta be Ro. Ro is the one. He was a chair of the Bernie campaign. He was the first incumbent Justice Democrat. It is time for Ro to do it. Now, here's the thing. There was another thing I was considering. I was thinking, would Ro primary a Democratic incumbent? Because no matter what, we're going to be facing a Democratic incumbent. Here's the thing. Of course he would. He's done it multiple times so far. He's primaried Tom Lantos, and he primaried Mike Honda twice. That second time, winning. Seriously, I will stand Ro Khanna for Senate every day. He is the one. Especially considering he would be the end of, the California liberal type. The Dianne Feinsteins, the Kamala Harrises. He is it. Here's the thing I would say. If he announces he's running for Senate, we will have to put all of our money and effort into him. And we can put our money and effort into a lot of these other guys too, but he would have to be a focus seat. I would love for all of us to get together and split the money evenly between all 34 of these guys and getting all of them in the White House, or not, you know what I mean. But it's if we gotta prioritize, Ro would be one of the priorities. Okay, the next seat is Colorado. Now, to be honest, Colorado's interesting because apparently it's expected to be a swing seat come the next election cycle. Given that, it could be interesting to see if we could primary Michael Bennet. Now, the thing is, who? I came up with 4 suggestions, but I'll be honest, the number 4 suggestion is kind of I don't know. The number 4 suggestion I have is Andrew Romanov. But let's be honest, I don't think Andrew Romanov is going to be primarying a Democratic incumbent. I don't think he's that kind of guy. He's probably the guy that's going to, stay the course if it's a, Democratic incumbent, but if it's a Republican seat, he'll run. I put him there because he did run against Bennett before, but that was because it was an open seat, so probably not him. The other 3, I'd be fine with any of these. I'd even be fine with Romanov, TBH, but I would be fine with these 3 especially, too. Levi Tillman, Lorena Garcia, and Stephanie Rose Spalding. You can pick any of the 3. I don't really care. I like all 3. Levi Tillman, for those who don't remember who Levi Tillman is, he was the guy who pretty much, he confirmed that Steny Hoyer and the DCCC pretty much rigged the elections so that for the, Democratic person, I've played this clip multiple times on the show, but I probably won't play it here, but, he literally recorded Steny Hoyer literally saying, we've already made a decision that we were going to be supporting your opponent, Jason Crow. He's and then Levi's what? Dude, the race hasn't happened yet. Nobody's voted. Not a single poll is out to show which of us would be the favorable candidate. And they're just yeah, but we made the decision that Crow is our boy. And we want you to get out of the race. Now, Lorena Garcia and Stephanie Rose Spalding, they're both progressive candidates who ran in the Senate seat against Romanov and Hickenlooper. Neither of them made it to the actual election, like to the actual primary. But either of these two would probably be interesting to see, run. I would be interested to see either of them run. Maybe give Stephanie a break and let Lorena take over. But either way, either of those three would be pretty much fine, and I'd even accept Romanov. Now, the next seat is Connecticut. Now, Connecticut is very interesting. One of these two is a suggestion, and one of these two is a person I figured out. The person I figured out was Michael D'Agostino. I don't think he's going to be too much interesting, but he did endorse Bernie in this election cycle, and he did support this huge marijuana thing. And he said he's a reformed Hillary supporter. He supported Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election, and then he said, we need to stop focusing on the this person can win. We got to focus on having actual policy, which is why he became a Bernie supporter in this election. But the person that was suggested to me was Saud Anwar. I don't know much about Saud. He's a Bernie endorser, that's all I know about him, and he's a state representative. And he's a doctor, so I think that would include possibly a thing where it's a doctor supports single payer and blah blah blah. That would probably be it. I don't know much about either of these two, but proper vetting should probably be done further into these two. I don't know if they explicitly are against Medicare for all, because when you become a state representative, it's kind of I don't know if you can say that or blah blah blah. But Connecticut, I don't even know if these two would actually run against a primary Democratic incumbent. Okay, so the next seat is Florida, the one state everybody gets crazy about, Lil Marco's seat. This Senate seat will be interesting. No matter how you shake it, it will be interesting. One name that I found interestingly attracted to was Pam Keith. Pam Keith is weird. She was a Justice Democrat in the 2018 election cycle for a House district. Now she's running for this House seat again, and she's a progressive. She ran for this seat last time in 2016 against Alan Grayson and Patrick Murphy, which made me question her progressive credentials a little bit. But she seems progressive enough, fine. I didn't endorse her because I literally looked more in depth of her after I officially decided I'm going to close endorsements out for this year. So, well, if she makes it into the House, it would be an interesting way to step into the Senate. But I'm basing this on the assumption that she loses. But the person I'm more interested in running for the seat is Jen Perlman. Primaried Debbie Wasserman Schultz and got Debbie Wasserman Schultz a bit scared. Tim Canova got her scared, but Tim Canova, I don't know what happened to him, but let's just say Jen is probably a better choice than Tim in that regard. Now, Georgia. Georgia is interesting because this seat might be Democrat held come November. Might. Very might. But either way, we need to focus on someone who could run against, run and win. Presumably against Doug Collins. I've made some suggestions, and these are suggestions I came up with. Richard Deanna Winfield, he's a progressive candidate who has been, he's just, it's not like he's in regards to policy. I'm endorsing him in this election cycle, but he's very unlikely to win, because he's tiny, and the same thing could be said come next election cycle. He probably won't be going too far. Maybe he can try for the House again. He ran for the House before, and I think it would be pretty good. Another candidate was Ted Terry. Ted Terry actually tried to run for the regularly scheduled Senate seat, but the thing was, he didn't for some reason. Like, I mean, he at the last second he like withdrew and he's running for like a state house seat. I don't know why. Again, I really don't know why. But I mean, it might be interesting to see him run. But the one name that I, for some reason, like really connected with was Vincent Ford. Vincent Ford is a 2-time Bernie endorsing state rep from Georgia. And he was even suggested as a potential replacement for John Lewis on the ballot come November. Which makes me think maybe there could be potential crossover appeal with some Democratic establishment types. He would be interesting to see. I mean, I'm all for Bernie endorsers running for Senate seats because, I mean, you'd want a class of Bernie supporters to be running for Senate seats, obviously. It shows they stand on the side of right, even when everyone's standing against them. This thing literally just dawned on me while I was recording that I didn't think about when I originally was saying all this. But, I mean, I don't know how this skipped me, but even though I'm not normally the kind of guy that suggests this, what if Killer Mike ran in the Georgia Senate seat? What if he ran? I'm not the kind of guy that usually says, oh, we need a certain celebrity to run for this seat. What if he did? Why not? Killer Mike. Oh, we need as many big named big progressives that we can think of. Killer Mike is definitely a good name for this stuff. This is the only time I'm genuinely excited for a celebrity trying to run for a political office. That would be interesting. All right. The next seat is Hawaii. Hawaii is interesting because here's the thing. We all know this. We all know this is happening. Hawaii, we're not only going to be fighting the Democratic incumbent. I guarantee you, we're also going to be fighting a former ally. I guarantee you there's going to be a former ally of ours that we ain't going to be saying too nice things to come the election cycle. So we're going to need a certain somebody to run as the person opposing both of them. And I see no other voice than Kenyella Ng. Kenyella Ng. This guy in 2018, he chose to run in District 1 specifically to make sure that Tulsi Gabbard stayed in the House. It's time for him to kick her ass as well, and let's send Brian Schatz back in too. Time to be heading on home soon. Get out of here, dude. We don't need fake progressives. That goes for you too, Tulsi. Kenyella Ng is the OG. I wanted him to run for her seat in this election cycle, but I don't know why. He likes the other guy. I forget his name. Kai Kahele. He likes that guy for some reason. I don't know why. The next seat is Idaho with Paulette Jordan. She's running in this election cycle. She's really not that impressive in this election cycle, but apparently she is supposed to be a progressive. I don't know why, but she's not really doing anything cool in this election cycle. Her healthcare plan is we're going to put doctors at the forefront of all this. And it's yeah, but do you have any specific policies? Another person I suggested would be Nancy Harris, who was a person who was a progressive that was running for this seat, but then she didn't run for the seat anymore to make way for Paulette Jordan. She's probably the biggest name. A big name factor is also a primary factor for this. Okay, so the next seat is the Illinois Senate seat. We have Carlos Ramirez Morosa as a potential person. I gave him a suggestion because, I will be honest. He was, if he decided to continue running in Illinois District 4, that would have been also cool. And I don't remember if he was primarying Luis Gutierrez or not. Or maybe if Gutierrez dropped out and then he jumped in, and then when Chuy Garcia announced he was going to be running, he was going to suspend his bid to support Chuy. I don't remember, but he might have been trying to primary a Democratic incumbent. And, Carlos Ramirez-Hermosa, he's pretty cool. Him and Chuy are probably best people in Illinois thus far. Mary Newman coming in third. And she doesn't get a suggestion I will say, you might think, why not Marie Newman as a suggestion? One, too young for it. And I don't mean age, but I mean like house age. She just got elected to the House. It's way too young to be primarying a Senate person. And I might say, but she has primaried a House incumbent. But that was a huge, huge departure from Tammy Duckworth. That was a huge departure. Tammy Duckworth, she's safe enough to be like, and we'll pass, and we'll give her a fine. But there is one person who I don't think will give her a pass, and it's not Chuy Garcia either. Anthony Clark. He primaried a DSA candidate for being too centrist. He primaried Danny K. Davis. Granted, I have to keep mentioning, his DSA membership may have lapsed, but I haven't seen any actual evidence to prove that it did lapse. Alright, let's move on. Indiana, Carlos Marcano. I'll be honest, I didn't really get into his House race. He ran for Illinois District 5 this election cycle. He follows me on Twitter, but I didn't really get into his seat, his race. Sorry, bro, but I just didn't get into it. You were just one of the names in many. That happens sometimes. And did he do anything phenomenal in that seat? Not really, but I'll be honest, there's no one else in Indiana that would be a good contention to fight against, obviously, Pete Buttigieg when it comes to him. Next seat is Iowa. Iowa is interesting because, again, I do find myself interestingly fascinated with a couple of these people. Stacey Walker, he's interesting. I didn't hear about him until this year, but he's been making some weird progressive strides, endorsing Bernie, and even go so far as to endorse the person I also suggest, Kimberly Graham. Kimberly Graham was the progressive that nobody thought would even come close to winning, which she didn't, but she does have an interesting, it seems interesting enough, that she would actually even consider running against the Democratic machine. Now, speaking of the Democratic machine, I'm actually going to be talking about someone who was screwed over by the Democratic machine as the most interesting person to possibly run for the seat. J.D. Scholten. J.D. Scholten, I'll be honest, is probably the best person to run for the seat. He's a progressive candidate who ran for Iowa District 4 in 2018 and 2020, but he actually tried to run for the Senate seat, but the DSCC specifically told him he was not allowed to run in that Senate seat, and they were going to have the DCCC give him tons of money in the general election for Iowa District 4 if he ran again, but then they screwed him over, and now he's openly calling them out and openly refusing their help anymore. So it does make me look at him and go, I think we can trust this guy. I think we can trust this guy. He'll be a good way to stick it to the Democratic machine. Now, next is Kansas. I'll have to give a special shout out to Brian Matlock, who I think would be cool to run, but, not going to win. The two ones that I'm actually interested in running and winning are James Thompson and Brent Welder. These were two progressive challengers in the 2018 midterms who did decently well. Now, the reason why these two are kind of like stuck together is because technically both have reasons why they should overlap each other. Like, one is slightly up tier than the other one in a different aspect. James Thompson, he's technically the more successful of the two, but he's currently battling cancer. I don't want to like be like, dude, run for the Senate seat. Who cares about your cancer? It's not cool. It's not cool, really. He deserves time to rest. So Brent, that leaves the challenge up to you, bro. The next seat is Kentucky. I did have a second suggestion, but I don't care. It's only one guy. Charles Booker. You nearly had Amy McGrath packing. It's time you do the same to Rand Paul. You can win against Rand Paul. I guarantee you that. Rand is probably the weaker of the two senators. He probably is. That is the truth. Usually the one who has, like, advantage of, like, being there longer is usually the stronger of the two. Charles, it's time for you to head to the greatness of beating Rand Paul. And now there's Louisiana. There's really only one person in Louisiana that is actually progressive, and no, Huey Long is dead. Antoine Pierce, he's running for the Senate seat this time around, and, he's probably going to lose, but he's a progressive, and he's definitely worth supporting, and he was going to be the top Democrat that was going to make it to the runoff, but then another Democrat just jumped into the fray and is like, I want to be the nominee. And it's like, The next seat is Maryland. Maryland had a couple of people that I was interested in. There was Ben Jealous, who ran for the nomination for governor. I don't know if he'd primary a Democratic incumbent, but he is definitely a big name in the progressive movement that would be good to run. There's Jerome Segal of the Democrat/Bread and Roses Party. He did primary a Democratic incumbent in Ben Cardin, being the explicitly socialist candidate in the race. And I was originally thinking, like, these two don't seem to be that good, and I doubt Chelsea Manning will run again, because, it's probably best for her to, be mentally healthy before actually trying to make another run for Senate. And now, I don't know why, like, this is weird. I was just sitting in my car. I was thinking, I don't know. I was just doing random stuff, and then I was just thinking, oh, fucking duh! What? Am I stupid? Michaela Wilkes. She's perfect, and we know she'd primary a Democratic incumbent. She gave Steny Hoyer his most competitive seat, race. At least in a while, she's perfect for the job. And I was literally hitting myself over the head just thinking, why didn't I think of this sooner? Now, Missouri, there is only one person who can run, and that would probably be Jamie Schoolcraft. He ran for Congress in 2018 as just a Democrat, and there really isn't anybody else progressive in Missouri that doesn't already have a huge hill that they have to go through. Cori Bush, I would have suggested her, but again, she's a baby in Congress. Can't really be running too much, too fast. She's gonna have to at least have 2 more terms before she even considers running again. Next is Nevada. Now, there are 2 names that I think would be, interestingly enough, good contenders for the seat. There's Lucy Flores, who, as we all know, was the one that Joe Biden touched. That's definitely that's not what she's probably best. No, I'd say that that's probably what she's best known for, unfortunately. But she's got progressive chops. I mean, she endorsed Warren, but we can forgive that. But, of course, the one that I, like more is Amy Vilela. She'd be perfect for the seat. I think she would be a good senator. Like, we need people like her in the Senate. She'd make a great senator. I'd vote for her if I was in Nevada. I would have voted her back when she was in that 2018. She was like one of my earliest endorsements. My earliest endorsements were like Bernie, Chelsea Manning, Levy, Tillman, Raul Grijalva, Ro Khanna, and like Constance Cannell Newton. New Hampshire, I doubt either of these two would run, but these are just some names I think would be cool to run. Levy Sanders, gee, I wonder why I want him to run. He's a progressive candidate who is the son of Bernie. Would be interesting to see him run, though that would probably lead to some nepotism biases and blah blah blah. Like, many people made the suggestion of like he ran in New Hampshire District 1, like in 2018, and people were mad, like, hey, like, that's stupid. I mean, and they even were like, Bernie, you gonna endorse your son? He's like, nah. But if we don't want to endorse family politics, if we don't want another Kennedy thing in the race, then why don't we have Andrew Volinsky run? I doubt he would primary Democratic incumbent, but again, he would be a good candidate to run. Next is New York. This is similar to California. You could technically have a couple of people run, but it's AOC or nothing. AOC and Roe, best members of the House of Representatives, promote them to Senate immediately. These two need to be senators now. End of discussion. I don't think I need to go into any more detail about AOC, because I guarantee you every progressive on the internet is saying, put AOC in the Senate. Okay, the next one is North Carolina. Now, the one that is the top suggestion might not even be the most progressive person to run in out of all the contenders. I did write suggestions of David Wilson Brown and Trevor Fuller. Trevor Fuller ran for the Senate seat in 2020 as a progressive. And David Wilson Brown is the only North Carolina person I'm openly endorsing currently, because he's the only one that's actually good. So I would be fine with either of these two running. But the biggest name that would potentially run is Jeff Jackson. Jeff Jackson is followed on Twitter by a bunch of progressive groups and people. Some of them that are pretty interesting, like Ryan Knight and, a bunch of North Carolina progressive accounts. But I don't know if he's that progressive, but he is notable because in this election cycle, he wanted to run for Senate as well. But the DSCC told him, you can't run, and openly told him, they told him he can run if he goes in a windowless basement and pretty much fundraises throughout the entire primary so that in the general election, they can just run ads against Tom Tillis. And he said, no, I want to run an active progressive campaign on the ground. And they told him, well, fine, if you won't do this, we'll find someone who will. And they did. And now they have Cal Cunningham, who they are now literally saying could jeopardize the Democrats' chances of taking the Senate in November. Really shouldn't have gotten involved. Okay, the next person is Ruth Buffalo in North Dakota. I'll be honest, I don't know much about her. All I know is that she endorsed Bernie. That's pretty much all I got. That's good enough for me, TBH. Otherwise, it's a lost cause state. There's no one else in there that is even remotely progressive. At least none to my knowledge. It's not like a William Lemke is just sitting there. Okay, now Ohio. Ohio's interesting because we have two people that I would be interested in running. I wanted to put Dennis Kucinich on here, but I do have to be considerate and be realizing the fact, some people, it's just, their time is done, which you'll be confused about because the person on the next part of the list is them. But, yeah. The two people that are good for the seat would first be Tara Samples. She's a good candidate. She was Kucinich's choice for lieutenant governor in the last election. She's endorsed Bernie before. And it would be very interesting to see her run. But That's only if we can't get Nina Turner in. Come on. Hello, somebody. Like, she is the perfect candidate to run. And I know you might say, oh, she might not flip it. But let's just say this. Being a Senate candidate is a better, profile to jump off into a presidential bid. I'm just saying. Next person is Tom Guild in Oklahoma. He's the progressive in Oklahoma. We need to make sure that we get another Fred Harris in Oklahoma, boy. We got to make sure of this. He wasn't able to beat that Kendra Horn girl twice, but let's see if he can get into the Oklahoma Senate. Okay, next is Oregon. We have Mark Gamba. Mark Gamba is the only person in Oregon who would be a good person to primary Ron Wyden. Ron Wyden, he's one of those guys that was like, technically, you might say he shouldn't be good for the progressive left, but he just like makes these weird decisions that are just like, what? Why? Like, he would have been fine. I would have probably even endorsed him, but then he's literally just like, yeah, but how about let's not give people who are foreign people constitutional rights? Who's with me? It's like, what? Dude, no. It's stupid. As you can hear from my voice probably, I'm getting hoarse, and I still have a couple Senate seats left to go. Okay, so the next person is from Pennsylvania. This person, they probably are thinking of running. They're the 6'7" person, John K. Fetterman, the Democratic Socialist who ran for Senate in 2016, ran for lieutenant governor, and is now the lieutenant governor, who has now just put himself with inroads with the governor to potentially get an endorsement for the next election bid. John K. Fetterman, you have my support 100%, bro. Okay, next is South Carolina. We have Justin Wooten and Mal Hyman. These two seem like pretty good progressive candidates, and I would be fine with either of these two. But I don't really lean in a particular direction with these two, TBH. But the only one I would consider myself slightly leaning towards is Justin Wooten, because Mal Hyman was consistently suggested by Grumpy Bertie Sanders, and I actually like Justin Wooten, so there's that. Then we have South Dakota. I'll be honest, this one's probably a lost cause, but one name that came into my head when I thought about this was Faith Spotted Eagle. Now, Faith Spotted Eagle, she is the one I'm probably going to have to make the biggest case for. But Faith Spotted Eagle is a Keystone Pipeline, like she fought against the Keystone Pipeline and received a faceless elector in 2016 due to her activism in regards to Native American issues. She would probably be a pretty good candidate for the seat. I don't know her stances on like many of the other big name issues, but she definitely seems like she could be a good voice for like Native American issues. And in South Dakota, that is a very big issue. She would, and I think she should be at least considered for the Senate seat. Okay, so now we have Utah. One person that I suggested was Daniel Beckstrand, who ran for Ben McAdams' seat in this election cycle, but I don't know how old he is, so I don't know if he can. Another person that I think could be considered is socialist, like Phelan Atkinson is his name. He's a sort of mutual on Twitter. He follows me, but I don't follow him. He said he wants to run for something in 2022. I don't know what. I don't know how old he is. So I don't know if he can run for Senate. But if he wants to run for Senate, I won't stop him. He's probably the best second choice. But personally, I know it's just me, but I really want Rocky Anderson to run for Senate. He was the guy who he was the mayor of Salt Lake City, and he ran a progressive insurgency campaign against Obama in 2012, And he endorsed Bernie in 2016, so he's definitely got the progressive, like, chops. It might be past his time, but, you know, I am saying this guy probably would be the best suited to, like, run and replace him. Like, replace whoever the incumbent is and blah, blah, blah. The next Senate seat is Vermont. The person who might actually be able to replace the failing senator from Vermont, and that used to be the big-name senator from Vermont. Now, there's really only two people that I think could and should consider running. Christine Hallquist and David Zuckerman. These two are pretty progressive figures, and I think would make really good senators. The only caveat would be, like, I want both of them in the Senate, TBH. I want both of them in the Senate, and I would consider Zuckerman to run for Bernie's Senate seat, and Christine to run for this one, just because, you know, Christine's a Democrat, Patrick's a Democrat, Bernie's an independent, David Zuckerman is a third-party candidate. You know, just keeping a little bit of weird consistency. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. They could literally switch seats, I don't care. Okay, so the next one is Washington. These four people, I'd be happy with any of these four running. Well, actually, I wouldn't be in favor of... I'm not entirely in favor of Pramila Jayapal running. And I might say, don't you like Pramila Jayapal? Yeah, I like Pramila Jayapal. But here's the thing. I'm already giving away Ro Khanna and AOC. We gotta be strategic here. We can't throw all of the progressives that are currently in Congress into these possibly failing Senate bids. We gotta, like, pick and choose our battles. And I might say, well, then wouldn't it make more sense to have her run and not AOC or Ro? Because AOC or Ro are better than her? Well, yes, but here's the thing. Eggs in the basket, like, the possible losses will lose tremendously. You know, like, yes, we will tremendously lose Ro if it fails, but the gains is Ro gets to be in the Senate, and that's definitely, like, worth the risk. Pramila, I like her, and she's fine, and she's good, but I don't know if she is, like, she's not, like, Ro AOC level anymore. But, you know, some, like, progressive candidates I think would be good to run would be like Sarah Smith or Jason Call or Rebecca Parson. They'd be interesting to run. I don't know how old they are, but, I mean, they would be interesting to run. I think Call is old enough, at least. So, yeah, I'd be down with any of them running. And now we've reached the last one. I gave the suggestion for Mark Buchan, but honestly, again, Mark is similar to Pramila. Keep them in the House. Let Ro and AOC possibly take the progressive movement to the Senate. My personal suggestion, and again, this was similar to Michaela Weiss. I don't know why I didn't think of this until, like, very recently, but I was thinking, why not have Randy Bryce run for the Senate seat? He's perfect. I don't get why I didn't think of this sooner. He's perfect. I know you might say, well, he retweets Lincoln Project. He's like Democrat friendly. Who cares? He's progressive. The end. He's perfect for the seat. This guy nearly beat Paul Ryan and got his seat. This would be perfect opportunity. Bring the LaFollettism back to Wisconsin is all I gotta say. So yeah, my throat really hurts. So now we're gonna end the video because that's my suggestions for a progressive deluge. Do you like any of these choices? I guarantee you will. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified of future video when it comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, join my Discord, or check out my articles in the Independent Political Report.